Hey, what's up, guys? I don't know if we're up and running. Let me just double check real fast here. Oh, we are. Hello. Hi, everybody. Hi, YouTube. Hi, TikTok. How's it going? Let me fire everything up. So in case I need to chat in the chat, I can chat. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. How's everybody's day going? Hello, D. Panila, Monkey Beasts. Hey, Mini Chico. SML, great to see you. Tina, how are you? Yes, we have the Melania stuff coming up. Melania Trump denying any strong connection with Jeffrey Epstein today, so we're going to get into all of that. And Sammy from Sweden? Wow. Hello, Sweden. How's everybody doing? 290 already? YouTube? Cool. All right, if you're new to the stream, let me fill you in on what is happening. My name is Gotti Schwartz. I am a correspondent, a host, a news guy here at NBC News, and I have a show at 5 o'clock on the West Coast, which is about 15 minutes from now, 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and it is a show about the news, everything that's happened in the world that we can cram into an hour. It's called Stay Tuned, and you can watch it anywhere you have a smart TV or anywhere you watch TV, like just Samsung, Roku, Amazon, whatever. Just turn it on, look for NNN, which is NBC News Now. And right now, if you tune in, you're going to see Top Story with Tom Yamas. And then in about 13 minutes, 12 minutes, you'll see Stay Tuned Now with Gotti Schwartz. That's me. But it's going to look fancier than this because this is for friends and family and chat only. This right here is our behind-the-scenes kind of chat function that we are experimenting with. So during the full show, you'll see it here. Oh, also, this is the crew up in New York, up at the top. That's the New York City control room. That is 30 Rockefeller. That is where everybody, all the producers sit and hang out, and all the voices that I hear in my head originate from. Below, this is the Artemis II live feed. So if there are any UAPs that come up, you know you're going to see them right there. And you better tell me because I'm going to be paying attention to the news. But yeah, we're going to keep that Artemis II live feed up as that epic, historic mission makes its way back home after flying by the moon. They're falling because gravity is pulling them back to Earth. And then they are going to, tomorrow night, start the sketchiest part of space travel, which is slowing down from, tens of thousands of miles an hour, and they're going to slow down with our atmosphere. And that atmosphere is going to turn into like a plasma cocoon of, I think, 5,000 degree plasma. So fingers crossed, everything works out. Peter, nice to meet you. If you had Insight News Persian counterpart, Hale chuma chetore, Farsi chimishe. That's all I know. I also know shabahe, which I think is good night. Let's see. Thank God for Artemis II, something positive in the news. Right, Trish? I am a big fan of this very singularly human concept that you can apply to a lot of different things. And that is sometimes holding two opposite ideas in your head at the same time and the way that makes you feel. And tonight we're going to be talking a little bit of nostalgia. And nostalgia is one of those. Nostalgia, it hurts, but it makes you feel good at the same exact time, right? And there's this beautiful nuance there that is uncomfortable and yet tells us a lot about the human condition. Guess what else does that for me? Space. Space is this perspective where we are so big and humanity is so huge and so vast and 8 billion of us here and yet so small and so tiny and so insignificant. And when you try to hold both of those things in your head, I mean, it is a beautiful experience. So I don't know. I think about that stuff a lot. It's one of those things that kind of grounds me, even though it's untethering. And sometimes when we can, we try to apply that type of nuance to the news. That's a little meta. But as you'll watch, we go pretty existential, even though it is topical news of day. So in a lot of these conversations, you'll see some of that nuance creep up. But today we are going to be talking about Iran first, the ceasefire that is like barely a ceasefire because there is still firing going on, as Nicole, one of our amazing producers, puts it in the script that you'll hear. So yeah, we're going to be doing that. We are going to be talking about Artemis. We're going to be talking about Melania and her remarks on Epstein. We are going to be talking to Adam Miller, who is running for mayor here. He's going to come by and hang out with us in the studio. We talked to Spencer Pratt a few weeks ago. We're hoping to talk to Karen Bass. We're hoping to talk to, all the major candidates in the race for LA mayor, because as we saw in New York, a lot of times like these small mayor races turn into these huge national microcosms. So what is going on there? Let's see. Did you ever see Jonathan Breck's show? I did. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, and look, that's why we've got the Artemis 2 feed up all the time. Queso reporting for listening duty. Oh, ¿qué pasa, Queso? 7:50 in the U.S. That's right, SML out there in Florida. Trish, you grew up in the Apollo age, so I love the Final Frontier. Yes, I love the Final Frontier, and I also love that show. I grew up in the Final Frontier, Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, like that whole, I guess that's my generation. But now we're all the Artemis generation, which is amazing. Let's see. I'm going back to school to pursue my dream of becoming an astronaut. No way. Dude, not only should I be the first to know, you should also, when we start going up there, I would love a ride. And I say that half joking, but also there's going to be so much work to be done in space in the next 20, 30, 40 years if we can figure out this lunar base situation, and if we can start mining helium-3. Like, you're going to get annoyed at how often I talk about helium-3, but when it comes to game changers, helium-3 is one of them. So tomorrow, we're going to be hosting a lot of the Artemis special coverage, or you guys should play a game on, how many times I say helium-3. Probably not going to be a ton, but I'm going to try to make it mainstream. Helium-3, it has the potential to revolutionize nuclear energy, nuclear propulsion, superconducting, and helium-3 exists on the moon. It exists on like some of our planets in the solar system, Jupiter. If we can figure out how to mine that stuff, then all of a sudden, like, space travel becomes a lot easier than it is right now. If you notice, we are using the Earth's atmosphere as an emergency brake tomorrow. That is cool and very ingenious, but also like it'd be much easier if we could just do Star Trek stuff, get our spacecraft to just fire up some thrusters and then reverse down and then slowly descend, and then we don't have to worry about like that much plasma and all that stuff. But we can't do that because we don't have ion thrusters yet. Tina, I will be bringing out the model tomorrow. Your 4 and your 2-year-old will be watching. Nice. Yeah, my 4 and 2-year-old hopefully will be watching too. I get to go to Kira's school tomorrow, and we're going to be talking all about Artemis. Never heard of helium? Yeah, right, Jesse, you're messing with me. You're the one that was like, hey, cold welding? And that sent me down a whole rabbit hole. Yep. 3. I love it. Yes, beam me up, Gotti. That would be a great name for my show. But we already called it. Stay tuned. What's up, Lisa? We miss you. Hey, Lisa, do you see that we've got everybody in the control room up there? Pretty cool. We've got Emma in my ear tonight. She is, a new homie. She's waving. Yeah. We got Sean over there. We got Liz over there. And I can't tell where everybody else is because it's a little blurry. And this is way too much of a close-up. Is that Nicole? That is Nicole, right? And is that Susan next to you? Yeah! Man, love it. Anyway, and they're not even, like that, the team is even bigger. There are, I don't know, over a dozen of us that are putting together this show every single day. So let's see. Give me a second, though. I need to double check something. Because all that space stuff has taken me out of the news of the day. So I need to recalibrate here for just a second. All right, so it's going Gabe, then Gosk, 9 minutes-ish, right? Okay. Okay, got it. Okay. Got it. Okay, so 6-ish, 6, 7-ish. 6, 7, oops. All right, so can we continue with our lunar conspiracies? Yes. Ginny, are you from yesterday? Yes. All right, give me a lunar conspiracy, and I'll tell you my /NASA/ most people that follow this very closely's take. The Persian community across the world has been devastated with the news of the casualties. Important perspective. Peter, thank you so much for that. We will continue to just try to cover everything that's happening. I know, Homestead, I'm sorry about that. It was an accident. Yep, this time tomorrow will be Splashdown. Jenny, are you excited about Splashdown? You think they went to the moon, right? Anybody out there thinking that they didn't? Because again, conspiracies are welcome here, but we just got to think them all the way through. Nope, it's still in the doghouse, Tina, unfortunately. But we'll figure it out. We're going to have to, there's a little bit of work to whitelist and do all that stuff. So, yeah, again, this is all experimental, and we really appreciate you guys hanging out. Yeah, I think technically the unbanning, who knows? We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yes. Oh, Irish Island, what's up? You're back. Sorry, our Twitch is still down. But yes, the Kubrick sat on the moon where they faked the moon landings. They flew them all the way up there, and then they're like, you shoot this, and there you go. That would be awesome. Let's see. We got 1.5 minutes.
90, yep.
90 seconds. There we go. All right, so a quick rundown on what we're going to be talking about. We are going to talk about the Iranian ceasefire, or where the ceasefire stands right now. We're going to be talking to Garrett Haake. He's at the White House. We've also got a report from Tel Aviv from Stephanie Gosk. She's going to give us the latest from there. Then we're going to be talking about this NFL investigation. Like, are you paying too much to watch NFL games? We'll see. Sam Brock is going to tell us. Then we've got an arrest in that missing boat case that we've been telling you about. The husband has been arrested. So what the latest is there. And then Kristen Welker sat down with the president of Cuba to chat with him about everything that's happening and whether Cuba could be next. But in 30 seconds, the show starts. So if you're new, here's what's going to happen. We pre-recorded the open. It's what we call the open, and it's a tightly edited little 1 minute and 20 seconds intro into the show. And then I'll come back on this picture-in-picture here, and then we'll be off to the races live for a little bit. Here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, it's Scotty Schwartz, and tonight the truce between the United States and Iran appears to be hanging on by a thread after Israel unleashes a deadly new wave of attacks on Lebanon. The concerns Israel's actions could derail ongoing negotiations. And all that happening as the critical Strait of Hormuz shows few signs of being back up and running. Traffic's essentially at a standstill. The new threat from President Trump today ahead of tomorrow's critical peace talks in the region. Plus, First Lady Melania Trump delivering a rare public statement over her alleged ties to Jeffrey Epstein.
The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today.
Why she's speaking out now as her husband's administration tries to turn the page. And are you a football fan? If so, how much do you think you dropped to watch the NFL last season? Well, a new federal investigation into the league over concerns the games are becoming just too darn expensive to watch. And we are less than 24 hours away from the Artemis II crew splashing back down on Earth. What's happening in the middle of the ocean right now ahead of their historic return home? And hold the phone. You're telling me Gen Z wants what type of iPhone? Why those old school ones with a button are the hot new thing. Those are just some of the stories we are watching. There is so much more to unpack tonight. So let's get going, because this is Stay Tuned Now. And tonight we start with day 2 of that ceasefire in the war with Iran, where the fire has not really been ceased. The agreement between the United States, Israel, and Iran seems to be holding on by just a thread, but Israel launched another wave of deadly attacks on Lebanon earlier. Iranian officials say if that keeps happening, the ceasefire is over. One official saying only limited hours remain and the missiles are ready to launch. And Lebanon is not the only one getting hit by drone attacks. Just a few hours ago, Kuwait defense officials say that they were fending off a hostile attack. Now, they didn't say where the drones came from, but clearly someone is still firing during this ceasefire, and all of it coming as the questions over whether the Strait of Hormuz is actually open or not keep piling up. Traffic in the strait is nearly at a standstill right now. Today, 5 ships, they did pass through, but before this war started over a month ago, about 100 ships were crossing the strait every single day. Now, that news casting some major doubt in the oil markets as the price of oil shot back up over $100 again today. U.S. crude rising over $102 per barrel, and gas prices climbing to a national average of $4.17. Today, Iranian state media released a statement from Iran's new supreme leader in which he says Iran will enter a new phase in the management of the Strait of Hormuz, while also praying for this decisive victory over the enemy, whether in the field of negotiations or on the battlefield. And let's get out to NBC's Stephanie Gosk, who is in Tel Aviv tonight for us. Stephanie, day 2 of the ceasefire, and there's still some fighting. What's the latest with Lebanon and Israel, where you are right now?
Yeah, I mean, there have been a number of attacks in a number of countries in the Middle East, even though this ceasefire is going on. And right here is a great example. Just moments ago, we had bomb sirens here in Tel Aviv, and it's the first time that we've heard those sirens since the ceasefire was announced in the early hours of Wednesday morning. We are told by Israeli media that it is very likely rockets from Hezbollah. And as you know, the Israeli military has been hitting Lebanon and Hezbollah very hard in the last day. It was scaled down a bit today, Gadi, but compared to yesterday when hundreds of people were killed in Lebanon, according to health officials there. But there were still attacks today, and the government here in Israel says they are going to continue to attack Hezbollah, and they insist it is not part of the ceasefire. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu did also say that they are going to open up talks with the Lebanese government, peace talks. But this is important because Iran's leadership insists that Lebanon is an inseparable part of the ceasefire, even though the U.S. and Israel disagree with that. All of this going on while the Strait of Hormuz continues to be shut down. All of these things potentially undermining the ceasefire, Gadi.
Yeah, and how are people in the Middle East feeling about this right now?
Well, it feels unsteady. And that's how people are feeling. And, you know, this is an unsteady region anyway. But when you talk about a ceasefire and you have in the first 48 hours a number of examples of where it seems to be falling apart, whether it's Lebanon and Iran being upset about that and saying it's going to retaliate for Israel's attacks, or whether it's the Gulf. You had a number of attacks on the Gulf nations yesterday, and then Kuwait today said it came under drone attack as well. And then part of this deal was to let open the Strait of Hormuz And that's just simply not happening. There was a CEO of a major oil company in Abu Dhabi that said it's just not open. It isn't open, and it's being restricted right now. Gotti?
Yeah. When it comes to those restrictions, I know it's impossible to tell exactly what's going on. There's a lot of spoofing going on. We're seeing some transponders maybe going through there from time to time. But do we know anything about whether or not there are payments being made to the Revolutionary Guard or the inner workings of what is flowing through the Strait?
Yeah, not many ships. So yesterday, 5, another 5 today. There might have been 2 oil tankers that went through today. Yesterday, there were no oil tankers. But it's so small, when you consider the scope of what it was before the war. It was something like 50 oil and gas tankers a day and over 100 ships through that strait. So it really is nominal at best. And we don't know what's happening in terms of what the restrictions are. The Iranians say that their military is deciding who goes in and who goes out, but very clearly there's not a lot of traffic going back and forth, and shipping companies can't feel very confident about the security in that strait, Gotti.
Yeah, and yet the ceasefire continues tonight. Stephanie Gosk, thank you. Now let's bring in NBC's Garrett Hake, who's at the White House. Garrett, I know your team spoke with the president this morning. What did he say?
Well, when we spoke to him this morning, Gotti, he was the most optimistic person in the room, confident that there could be a deal with Iran and insisting that the Iranian regime is much more reasonable in their negotiating positions in private than they have been in public. I'm left to wonder if they might be saying the same thing about him and his team after all the incendiary rhetoric we've seen over the last couple of days. But just tonight, the president posted saying Iran's doing a very poor job, he says dishonorable even, at opening the Strait of Hormuz, which really was the key negotiating point that the president wanted to hold on to in these early days. So it's tough to see exactly where things stand, but he seems pretty committed to trying to force this peace process through in some capacity.
And what can we expect from the peace talks tomorrow?
It's going to be interesting. We don't know a lot about the format or even entirely who from the Iranian side will be there, other than that this Speaker of Parliament, Ghalibaf, is going to be involved. On the American side, I think the X factor is the involvement of Vice President Vance. Remember, it's been Steve Witkoff, the president's friend and everything envoy, and Jared Kushner, who've done most of the negotiating up till this point. The Iranians have said they don't trust them anymore. They were negotiating with them now twice, both last summer and earlier this year when the bombing started. Having J.D. Vance, a constitutional officer of the U.S. government who has his own opinions and feelings about this and whom the president can't fire even if he wants to be involved, I think is the noteworthy difference. How involved he is after the first 24 hours or so, if he'll even stay in Pakistan for the duration, I think are operative questions. But that is something, that is a factor that sort of changes these negotiations from what we saw in the lead up to the war.
Yeah, and the Pakistan of it all as well. Earlier, we saw House Democrats also trying this last-minute attempt to stop the war. What happened there?
Yeah, look, I'll put my old Capitol Hill reporter hat on here and say this is some good old-fashioned House shenanigans. Basically, this was a pro forma session. The House is not in. There's only a handful of lawmakers in town. And when that happens, they open the floor for a few minutes at a time every day and then close it again, basically to say that they were in session for the day. Democrats tried to force themselves to be called on to offer up one of these resolutions. And the Republicans in charge basically just pretended like they didn't hear them and gavelled the day out again. We've seen a couple of these efforts of varying degrees of effectiveness to force votes on the War Powers Act. I suspect we'll see more. But for right now, I don't mean this disrespectfully. It is essentially a stunt by these House Democrats to keep the issue in the news, keep folks talking about it, even if they know they don't have the votes to pass, or in this case, even force consideration on the floor for a resolution to rein in the president on the war.
Garrett Hake with the Reality Check. Garrett, thank you. And the Justice Department is investigating the biggest sports league in the country, the NFL, saying the league is forcing fans to pay too much in subscription fees in order to watch regular season games. But the NFL is on defense. They're responding to this statement saying, quote, the NFL's media distribution model is the most fan and broadcaster friendly in the entire sports and entertainment industry, with over 87% of our games on free broadcast television. So who is moving the goalposts here? Because according to Forbes, the average cost to watch every single regular season game last year was about $765. And why is that? Well, apparently it has to do with all the streaming and the broadcast platforms that play those games. Of the 10 in total, at least 4 platforms have monthly subscription fees. NBC's Sam Brock has that playbook.
Gotti, the Department of Justice hasn't confirmed this investigation officially or commented, but a government official close with the investigation tells NBC News it's about leveling the playing field and examining whether or not there is true customer affordability, in the sense that the NFL is offering this product, which in some cases is behind a paywall. Because unlike when the law was conceived in 1961, the Sports Broadcasting Act, that allowed limited immunity for the NFL from antitrust laws when it came to pooling the distribution of all of its 32 NFL teams, or however many there were at the time, and selling them to networks like ABC or NBC or CBS. Now, in 2026, there's all these streaming platforms. And that's where the rubber meets the road, because fans now, if they don't want to watch what's in their market, if they want to watch an NFL game that is out of market, sometimes have to pay a fee, whether it's to see Amazon Thursday Night Football, or it's to watch it on Netflix over the holidays, or any other platform, including Peacock, which of course is owned by our parent company, Comcast. There's all these different options. And what is a reasonable amount of money a fan should be expected to pay for entertainment that isn't free? Because the NFL will counter 87% of its games are free, and all the games in your local market are free. That's going to be offered on a platform locally, a local station, even if it's being streamed behind a paywall elsewhere, if it's in your market. So we spoke with Jody Balsam, who is a nationally recognized sports attorney, and she used to work for the NFL for 12 or so years in their in-house counsel office. Here's what she told us about the argument here and whether there's any merit.
Consumers right now, if they want to follow their local team, pay zero. Right? So the content is available to them at no cost. What we're talking about is giving consumers the opportunity to access every single regular season game, 270 games. That's going to cost you something.
Gotti, the big picture takeaway from this is really twofold. One of the things that we're going to be paying close attention to is other sports leagues, right? That 1961 law doesn't just cover the NFL. The NFL makes the most money, and that's why probably they're the first test case here. But it also covers Major League Baseball, it covers the NBA, it covers NHL. The other thing here is just you have NFL teams, 32 of them, that instead of aggregating or instead of selling all of their rights individually, are aggregating them into one pool, and then that's sold to the various networks or to streaming platforms. If you tried to break this down and de-aggregate them one by one, the argument perhaps the DOJ would make is you're going to get a lower price for consumers because you have 32 different options, and they're going to, with all that competition, lower down the price. But attorneys have a lot of skepticism about that. This is a more efficient system as it's currently constructed. What guarantee is there that if you force 32 NFL franchises to come up with 32 different agreements with Apple or Netflix or Peacock or any other streamer for that matter, that you're going to get a better deal? So these are some of the things that are going to be weighed out in court, and this process will probably take years, not even months. So we'll find out where we go next. Gotti, back to you.
Yeah, we sure will. Sam Brock, thank you so much. And turning now to this very interesting interview in Havana, where tensions remain high between the United States and Cuba. Power outages and fuel shortages continue, as they have on that island since the U.S. blockade cut off oil shipments back in January. And with President Trump's intervention in Venezuela and Iran, the question is, could he be eyeing Cuba next? Here's what he said about that last month.
I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it.
NBC's Kristen Welker sat down with Cuba's president for an exclusive interview on the future of his country and whether he'd consider stepping down.
Would you be willing to step down if it meant saving Cuba? ¿Está dispuesto a dimitir con tal de salvar a Cuba?
You are a very important and
If the United States
recognized
asks.
journalist.
If the
Have you
United
ever
States
asked that
asks.
question to any other president in the world?
Because it's one of the conditions the United States is asking for. Would you ever consider that?
Let me explain. Have you asked that question to any other president
I
in the
ask
world?
very
Have you
tough
asked that question
questions
to
to
any
our
other
own
president in the
president,
world?
yes.
Could you ask
I
that question
ask
to
very
Trump?
hard questions of President Trump.
Eso muestra, ¿es una pregunta tuya o es una pregunta del departamento?
Is that a question from you, or is that coming from the State Department of the U.S.
My
government?
question is, because it's one of the things that we've heard the U.S. government talk about, that they want political change here in Cuba. So my question for you,
voy a asumir que-
if they asked you, if they said this is one condition, would you
Por
step
tu
down?
sinceridad voy a asumir que
Because
la
of your
haces
honesty, I'm going to assume that you're asking that question because of those reasons.
En Cuba, las personas que están al
In Cuba, the people who are
responsabilidad de gobierno,
in leadership position
el gobierno de los Estados Unidos,
is not elected by the U.S. government, and they don't have a mandate from the U.S. government.
I also pressed President Diaz-Canel on the changes the United States says are necessary in order to normalize relations with Cuba, including releasing political prisoners, holding multi-party elections, and creating a free press. He was not willing to commit to any of those demands.
Yeah, so much more in that fascinating interview. You can catch more of Kristen's exclusive interview with President Diaz-Canel this Sunday on Meet the Press. And don't go anywhere. Up next, we're just 24 hours away from the Artemis II crew splashing down to Earth. We're taking a look at all that goes into preparing for their historic return. Plus, the future of the workforce is already including robots. Brian Chung went to a factory in South Carolina that is introducing some to robotic coworkers. That's next.
All right, 2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right, chat. We got 2 minutes. Okay, we got 2 minutes to chat. Let's see. U.S. Interesting. Yes. Yes, Lobato. We will be definitely covering the splashdown. When are we going to start using the regime for the government? That's a great question. Because we do call other governments regimes. I don't know. I'm not a wordsmith. Let's see. Lavrov. Yeah, and Kristen Welker will press anybody. Anybody. Let's see. Monty, hello, how's it going? Andromeda, hello, how's it going? Oh, there were some comments that we should have, let's see. Why we are not landing on the moon? Ginny, we'll come back to that because it's a very important question. Is this in retaliation to the Super Bowl? I don't think so, but I'm not sure. Let's see.
1 minute.
Trish, yeah. They didn't have the game that you were watching unless you were paying for another platform? It is pretty wild. Let's see here. All right, what else is going on? Is the strait closed again? George or Jorge? It depends on who you ask. It's open, it's closed, who knows? There were 5 ships that made it through today, apparently. Egypt, how's it going? People of Cuba, yeah, it's getting really bad there. I bet Kristen Welker would.
30.
Kristen's not scared of anybody. 30 seconds. All right, that's Big Mike over there telling me to get in position. Now, we talk about what we should all be focused on, which is collaborating to push us further than we've ever gone before. What is it? 10 seconds. 10 seconds, all right. All right.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. We are in the home stretch now of NASA's historic mission to the moon. Now, less than 24 hours until the crew will splash down. Day 9, the wake-up song this morning was Lonesome Drifter by Charlie Crockett, which couldn't be more appropriate as the team now drifts through space thousands and thousands of miles away for a final day. We are also getting some incredible, some stunning images like this one showing the Earth and the moon at scale. That's the moon, the little teeny tiny one. That's all of us right there, and those kinds of views too. You might think that this right here is, I don't know, some snowy cosmic blizzard. Unfortunately, it's not. That's the team's wastewater being dumped into space. Yeah, like this is their version of flushing the toilet, which we also know has been causing a bunch of problems up there. But working toilet or not, the crew is going to come back having made history as the first humans to see the entire far side of the moon. And just moments ago, the team reflected on that mission.
I hope that we connect back to when we went to the moon the first time and we started calling big things that humanity accomplished moonshots, and we take ownership of this moonshot and realize that we can do it. And then we also think about the future and that this is just the beginning and that there's nothing that we can't accomplish when we pull all of our differences together.
That's so perfectly said. And here is a live look at the Orion spacecraft right now. Sometimes it breaks up, but that's it as it's making its way back to Earth. NBC's Tom Costello has more on what their risky and their fiery re-entry is going to look like.
Picking up speed as Orion races towards Earth, the 4 astronauts are tonight packing and preparing for tomorrow's fiery re-entry as NASA releases more high-res, jaw-dropping photos of the moon, the mission, and a new time lapse of the solar eclipse.
It's really hard out here. We're a long way from home. We've been learning the entire journey.
Meanwhile, in the splashdown zone off the coast of San Diego, the USS John P. Murtha and naval teams already in position.
A primary mission is to recover the astronauts from the capsule once it splashes down in San Diego.
Orion will come screaming back to Earth at 25,000 miles per hour. The ship's heat shield climbing to 5,000 degrees, half the temperature of the sun. At 22,000 feet, the first parachutes will deploy, slowing Orion from 25,000 down to 20 miles per hour and a safe splashdown in the Pacific off San Diego, where those Navy divers will fast approach. Lieutenant Commander Dr. Jesse Wang's team will evaluate the astronauts on the ship.
We do expect them to have some symptoms for being in space for 10 days, most commonly nausea, a little bit of vertigo or disequilibrium.
But first, NASA needs to bring the crew home.
All of it depends on the final minutes of flight, and tomorrow the crew is going to put their lives behind that confidence.
They sure will. Tom Costello, thank you so much. Now, a little bit more about that splashdown. As that Navy ship prepares for Orion's splashdown, Brooke Martell with our San Diego station breaks down what is going to happen before, during, and after the astronauts' much-anticipated return.
The naval ship has been out at sea since Monday, and right now the crew is doing any last-minute run-throughs and rehearsals of the recovery they've literally spent years preparing for before the Orion spacecraft is expected to splash down. That naval ship will get into position of where they think that space capsule will land, and that's what starts the recovery sequence. Marine Colonel Christopher Wynn, who is assigned to the U.S. Navy's 3rd Fleet and is a lead planner for the Artemis II recovery, says crews all over the world are prepared for this landing. When the capsule does make re-entry, NASA says Orion will slow from nearly 25,000 miles per hour to about 300. A system of parachutes will deploy that will bring the speed of the spacecraft down to about 20 miles per hour as it splashes down into the Pacific. Trained Navy divers and medical personnel will approach and open the space capsule to make contact with the astronauts and do medical checks. An inflatable raft called the front porch will go under Orion's side hatch to help the astronauts out before they're hoisted and flown via helicopter to the naval ship, where additional medical evaluations will take place and doctors and surgeons will be available. Once they're cleared, Colonel Wynn says the astronauts will be taken by helicopter from the USS John P. Murtha back to Naval Air Station North Island, where they will fly back to NASA's Johnson Space Center. And what about Orion? A team on small boats will secure the capsule before towing it back to the ship's well deck. Colonel Wynn describes it as pulling a vehicle into a garage. It'll be set on a cradle and taken back to Naval Base San Diego before being trucked back to Houston. When it comes to weather conditions, NASA is keeping a close eye on wave heights, wind speeds, visibility, and cloud cover, but the agency says in order to recover in a particular area, there cannot be any precipitation or thunderstorms within 30 nautical miles. Wave heights need to be under 6 feet and those wind speeds under 25 knots.
Fingers crossed. Brooke Martell, thank you so much. And tomorrow during this hour, we're going to have special coverage of the Artemis II splashdown, so tune in for that. And coming up, the First Lady making rare public comments, shutting down any ties to Jeffrey Epstein. More on what she said just ahead. All right. Wait a minute, Trish, you got to see the Apollo splashdown? Did they, I mean, that must have been incredible. Which Apollo, do you remember? They'll hold these guys in quarantine, I think, for a little, well, I don't know if it's a quarantine, but we're not gonna, you know, like the public is not gonna have access to them for quite some time. They've got to make it all the way to Houston, I believe. In addition, they will have some vision loss. 10 days up in zero gravity. I think they probably will, yeah. Welcome back. Oh, thanks. BS can't, I don't know what the rest of that says, but are you saying BS for the whole lunar landing in general, or that they're really not up there? I don't think they pass out at launch. Interestingly enough, like the G's that they pull are pretty limited. As long as everything goes according to plan, their G's are, I think, under 4 or 5 G's. Like fighter pilots, like I've pulled 9 G's before. That was intense. And then before we were flying around, we were doing a few low G maneuvers, like the 3 or 4 G's. It wasn't that crazy. Okay, headlines, then we're tossing to George Solis. Here we go.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Here are some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. Melania Trump made a rare statement today denying ties to Jeffrey Epstein and calling on Congress to hold a hearing for survivors.
I have never had any knowledge of Epstein abuse of his victims. I was never involved in any capacity. I was not a participant, was never on Epstein's plane, and never visited his private island.
This is the first time the First Lady has commented on the Epstein investigation on camera. Her remarks come after the DOJ told the House Oversight Committee that former Attorney General Pam Bondi will not comply with a subpoena to testify next week. And Sean Diddy Combs is asking a federal appeals panel to throw out his conviction and sentence. His lawyers are saying that the judge went too far by relying on allegations the jury rejected, but prosecutors argue the sentence fits the law. The appeals court judges haven't made a decision yet, but they noted that this is, quote, exceptionally difficult case. And the jury starts deliberations tomorrow in the antitrust trial against Live Nation and Ticketmaster. Prosecutors say the merger of the two companies put them on the road to a monopoly, but the company's lawyers argue venues and artists benefit because of that merger. The Department of Justice decided to allow the company to stay together for now, but more than 30 states are still pushing to break the merger up. And a miner in Mexico was rescued after spending almost 14 days in a flooded underground tunnel. Look at that. Francisco Zapata Najera was trapped under there after a structural failure, and that tunnel flooded, trapped several other workers inside as well. Divers say it took more than 20 hours to drain the tunnel and bring them back to the surface. He is in stable condition, but the search continues for at least one other missing miner right now. And there is a new survey from ISOPS and Epoch AI that says roughly 20% of full-time workers in the U.S. say part of their jobs have been automated or replaced by AI. Experts say this could be less about total job loss and more about redesigning an employee's day-to-day tasks. Many of the workers surveyed say they are being asked to do new kinds of work because of new technology. And there has been a major arrest in the case of the woman who went missing from a boat in the Bahamas. Police arresting the woman's husband, Brian Hooker. That's the last person to see her alive this weekend. Officials say, as of now, the Coast Guard is working with local authorities, and the FBI will jump in if needed. NBC's George Solis is following this investigation.
Gotti, it's important to note that no charges have been brought forth. Now, I actually spoke with Terrell Butler, Brian Hooker's attorney, saying at this point she's not sure where her client is exactly, but the next line of questioning could determine whether any charges are brought forth or whether he is set free. And again, she reiterated that Brian Hooker unequivocally denies the allegations made by his stepdaughter, Carly, who over the last several days that she's spoken with us, says she's had questions and concerns about the relationship between her mother and stepfather. Even at one point, if you recall, sharing a voicemail with us expressing what she described as a monotone delivery when he mentioned that he threw over a life preserver when Lynette Hooker fell over and that it was recovered, but unfortunately there was no sign of Lynette. Now, the Royal Bahamas police force has not said much of anything else since they announced that a man was taken into custody about this time yesterday. And we have been pushing them for updates about more information, but they've remained tight-lipped. Now, there's also some new information coming to light about a 2015 arrest that is pretty interesting, and it was also brought up by Carly, the stepdaughter, of a domestic violence arrest that included and involved her mother. Now, in that report that was obtained by NBC News, there seems to be some altercation between Brian and Lynette Hooker, where they exchanged some blows, according to the narrative in court documents there. But ultimately, the case was dropped when authorities really couldn't find who may have started this altercation. But again, raises a lot of intrigue as these developments have been fast moving. And again, you'll recall that the U.S. Coast Guard officials also saying that they've opened up a criminal investigation, but so far, no word of any evidence that has been found. But again, this is why the attorney now telling us the next hours are crucial, because even though her client is in custody, again, no charges have been brought. And she did reveal to us that he was planning on going on another expedition to try and find his wife, and that he'd already been questioned by authorities as a witness, and he had retained her prior to this arrest. So again, a lot to untangle here with this case as it's still ongoing. Many questions still left unanswered. And again, the next few hours here, very critical to see where this case goes next. Gotti?
George Solis, thank you so much. And coming up, old phone, who dis? Why an iPhone that rolled out more than a decade ago is suddenly the new it phone. That's coming up.
All right,
90 seconds. That case is so sketchy. So we'll see what happens next. But, I mean, and it gets complicated, too. The different jurisdictions, you know, there's only limited, who knows? We'll see what happens. Splashdown Apollo 11 would have been first grade. Wow. Apollo, I mean, I would have loved to have seen any of those Apollo missions. My grandfather worked on, I think, Apollo
1 minute.
Apollo 10 through 12. The status of the Strait is a big question mark. Some ships are getting through, like 5 today. Trump is basically saying that it's not open and they are not happy. And Iran is saying that they want to manage it. So we'll see. I got that old blue iPhone. Wow, what year was it? Happy to roll back to this old iPhone if skinny jeans make a comeback.
20?
Yeah, also, my wife has been making fun of my jeans, saying that they're too skinny. And I told her I look like Aladdin when I wear big pants in the studio. I don't know. You guys will have to. Brian Chung coming up. Okay.
4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Tonight in the Future of Everything, the robots are assembling, literally, on the assembly line. More and more factories say they are turning to humanoid robots to help with physical labor. NBC's Brian Chung visited one of them to see what's up with all these new robotic coworkers.
The robots are on the roads, in the streets, performing on stage, even in the White House. And now in the workplace too, as companies increasingly turn to humanoid robots to fill jobs. In Cheraw, South Carolina, auto parts manufacturer Scheffler employs about 750 people and a couple of robots too. This is Digit, 5'7", 205 pounds. It's made by Agility Robotics, where Curran Kokar works.
Why design it like a human? I think one of the reasons is it's easier for a robot to fit into a human workspace, so that the workspace need not be modified.
Digit's commute just a few steps from its charging pad to a stack of metal baskets, each one carrying 25 pounds worth of auto parts from a stamping press. It squats down, pinches the edges of the basket, walks a few feet away, and places the basket onto a conveyor belt to be fed into a huge washing machine to clean the parts.
So Digit over here has arms and hands and legs just like us, but its eyes are not quite on the top of its head. It actually has a LiDAR sensor in its neck and a camera on its chest to figure out how high to elevate it when it puts it onto the conveyor belt.
Dave Kerr, Schaeffler's president of humanoid robotics, says all of this used to be done by a human.
And so what happened to that person that used to be doing that job?
That particular person was reskilled. So reskilled to, we would call it upskilling to a more favorable job or a higher tech job.
Schaeffler's plan is to use robots like Digit across its 100 plants in monotonous, repetitive, often physical jobs.
So we expect our employment to remain quite the same, and we will move folks up, the humans up, and we will bring in and backfill them with these humanoid bots.
In the workplace, that will mean displacement, not necessarily replacement, says Indeed economist Laura Ulrich.
There's no doubt that the lowest level of tasks that robots will be able to do first will displace some lower skilled, lower wage workers, and hopefully companies will upskill those workers or reskill them so that they can remain employed in the company.
The bigger threat to jobs right now may be in desk jobs, where the sweeping adoption is happening for tools like ChatGPT or Claude in corporate America. A Deloitte report this year said nearly 3 in 4 companies say they plan on implementing autonomous AI agents within 2 years. Robots as part of our daily lives, long part of pop culture.
And I love you people too.
And also sci-fi dystopia.
Why do you give them faces?
But now some analysts say the world really should brace for a world full of humanoid robots. UBS estimates more than 2 million humanoids will live among us by 2035, with that number exploding to 300 million by 2050. Manufacturing has long utilized robots to help make grueling physical jobs a bit easier. And more recently, companies like Amazon tapping robot fleets to do heavy lifting in warehouses.
We have over 1 million unfilled positions right now, but we've got an aging population. We've got demand for more manufacturing happening in the U.S. and not enough people to do it.
This is Apollo.
Other humanoid makers are in the robot race to staff up manufacturing plants. Mercedes-Benz is teaming up with Apptronik, and Hyundai is working with Boston Dynamics. The company, famously known for its dog-like robot named Spot, which also inspired this nightmare-fueling Black Mirror episode, says robots aren't ready for the home just yet.
Going into the home is a mistake. We want to go into factories first, then work towards consumer-facing service industries, and then go into the home.
Back at Schaeffler, engineer Courtney Bain says Digit's power is its mechanic reliability.
You could throw your back out, you can get sick. Digit doesn't have to worry about any of that.
Digit doesn't have to worry about that. Digit doesn't have as many knee problems as we do.
Even if it takes some breaks, just like us.
When humans are on their lunch break, the robot is not running.
So I guess Digit takes a lunch break too, like everybody else.
In a way, yes.
What a wild world. 300 million by 2050. The other day, my kids saw one of those pass by our house, and we chased a robot for, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes. Crazy times that we live in. Brian Chung, fascinating stuff. Thank you so much. And turning now to the future of education, New York City public schools are releasing an AI playbook for teachers and students, but some parents say it falls short. NBC's Valerie Castro has that story.
A traffic light, the universal system for maneuvering streets, now guiding teachers and administrators on how to use AI in New York City classrooms. But a growing number of parents and students want the school system to hit the brakes for at least 2 years.
The DOE's guidance really fell short of anything that we were expecting to provide any kind of reasonable use for what AI could look like. There's no sort of critical literacy built in. There's no sort of thinking about what it means to outsource thinking to machines.
Kelly Clancy is the founder of Parents for AI Caution in Educational Spaces. Her daughter Alma is in 3rd grade, where some students are already using AI.
I love my classroom AI free. AI is basically taking over the world.
Clancy fears the New York City Department of Education is forging ahead too quickly.
What I worry about is my kids missing out on this critical window to learn how to ask questions about the world because they're the guinea pigs of the DOE's experiment in integrating AI.
AI is already in use in some New York City schools. The new guidelines will create a uniform policy for the district. Red means do not proceed when it comes to decisions about students, behavior and counseling, and grading. Yellow, proceed with caution when allowing students to use AI for help with research or creative projects. Green, proceed with confidence, allowing educators to create class schedules, translate non-critical materials, and support their own professional development. The guidelines are currently under review with a 45-day period for public comment.
I think about it as a potential opportunity to accelerate learning.
At an open forum this month, New York City Schools Chancellor Kumar Samuels addressed parents' concerns.
We don't see AI as replacing teachers. And also, we want to develop strategies for protecting and enhancing critical thinking in the classroom.
Some teachers see it as an added assistant in the classroom.
I think of the whole idea of the AI is for teachers really being that co-grader and co-planner. What is good teaching is never going to change with these tools. It's going to be, you making the actual decisions about what is the best way to deliver, as well as to assess your students.
More than 30 other states have developed statewide AI guidance for public schools. Georgia even adopting the same traffic light system. Clancy and her daughter outspoken and calling on the chancellor to hear them out.
AI is bad for kids. When their teachers ask a question, the AI does not let kids think to answer the question. Chancellor Samuels, please make our schools AI free.
And even though AI seems to be everywhere, Clancy says it's not too late to slow down.
Our argument is that nothing's inevitable, right? Like we can choose to educate our kids differently.
Yeah, the crazy thing is some people see yellow and they speed up. To others, it means slow down. Valerie Castro, thank you so very much. And turning now to a throwback. Would you upgrade your smartphone to be dumb? Well, some Gen Zers are reaching way back more than a decade to recreate those lo-fi pics for a perfect night out. Look at this.
Y'all, so I done caved and got the iPhone 5C. I don't know. I think it'll be so cute for like digital pictures and stuff.
This is like kind of becoming basic, but I just like the way that like old iPhones take photos. This is like my digital camera, I guess.
I bought it so like I could go out to the club and bring it with me and take like aesthetic pictures.
Now I have me an iPhone 5. I can finally rest in peace.
They finally rest in peace. It looks like the iPhone 5C specifically is making this comeback after it got discontinued way back in 2016. But why are so many ditching high-definition cameras for something grainier and worse? Well, nostalgia. It is a hell of a drug. Let's bring in existential psychologist and author of Past Forward, Clay Rutledge, for more. Clay, always great to see you. It seems like some of those jumping onto this trend were just starting high school when the iPhone 5C launched. Others were as young as 3. Why the race back to these phones we had almost 13 years ago?
Yeah, and it's nice to see you again as well, Gotti. A lot of it has to do with the way nostalgia works as a psychological resource. And we tend to become nostalgic for lots of things from the past, both our own personal past and a more historic past, when we're going through major societal, technological, cultural disruptions. And we are looking for the past for some comfort, but also some inspiration to connect with something that we feel like we're missing or that we've forgotten.
I mean, you described our times so perfectly right now. And this is also not the first time that we've seen 2010s re-enter the chat. A few months ago, timelines were full of like 2016 throwbacks. Again, we live in this time of uncertainty, and so we're looking back. But why do we fixate on like specific things like 2016? What is it about 2016 over 2015 or 2014?
Some of it's a little bit random in the sense that somebody on social media identifies something that they think is pretty cool or interesting or worthwhile about a specific time, and then they share that memory or that experience, and then it's contagious. And that's one of the things that's neat about nostalgia is we often think of nostalgia as this inward-looking experience where you're sitting there reflecting on your own past. But in reality, it's a very outward-looking experience where you think about something that you find moving or meaningful, And then you want to share it with other people and talk about it. And then that provokes them to think about that time. And then in the age of social media, ironically, technology can be the device that spreads this sentiment for the old times.
Yeah, passing out those member berries, I guess. Do you see a future in which people are going to be, I don't know, pulling out these iPhone 17s and be like, oh my gosh, you have an iPhone 17? I wish I had an iPhone 17.
It's certainly possible. I have a bunch of old video game, I have an old video game collection, for instance, and I've got the original Nintendo and the old Ataris and all of that. And, that's from when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s. And now I do see younger generations that have the systems that I considered new 10 or 15 years ago, and they consider them old. They consider them the retro system. So this is just kind of how we pass culture down from generation to generation. We have our things that feel old to us, and then the next generation gets into that, and then they have their own version. Something happened a couple of weeks ago. I was just in Tokyo for the Super Mario's movie, and I went around Tokyo and I found an old Game Boy, and I bought it, and I found an old cartridge for Super Mario Land, and I plugged it in, and it worked, and I turned it on, and I had to adjust the contrast, and I felt this certain kind of way, the music, like the jumping, and my fingers were doing something that I remember doing. So I felt so like nostalgia on steroids. And then we went to interview this Super Mario cast, and I ended up giving it to Benny Safdie, who literally just sat there, and the same exact look came over him when he locked in. It was absolutely wild. You got to invite me over for Atari one of these days. Oh, for sure. And that experience you had is exactly how this works, right? You shared it with somebody else, and going back to the iPhone thing, there's something about the tactile, hands-on experience, even when the technology's digital. People want to connect with that feeling in real life.
We sure do, and what a time to reconnect with maybe technology, but definitely with each other. Clay Rutledge, I always love hanging out with you, man. Thank you so very much for being with us. And still to come, Los Angeles mayoral candidate Adam Miller is joining us to talk about the future of LA and why he should be tapped over the 13 other candidates right now. But first, you got to see this. You might remember Punch the Monkey and his orangutan Stuffy, but what about Harbor Seal and his rubber ducky? This is Ray Gay, a 33-year-old harbor seal who lives at the New England Aquarium, and his best friend, Ducky. The aquarium says harbor seals are naturally curious, so introducing them to new friends is a form of stimulus. In Ray Gay and Ducky's case, well, that helps form lifelong friendships. We'll be right, quack. I mean that.
All right, 90.
All right, 90 seconds. 90 seconds, we got a guest. We got Adam Miller coming in hot here. So we can chat for 1 minute before they bring him in here. What you guys got? I would say 5C was unique for different colors. Yeah, interesting. Every millennial I ever made fun of as Gen Z, I now understand what it feels to be called older vintage. That was great. Reed, you're incredible. Game Boy Tetris, yes, for sure. Concerned about the...
1 minute back.
Yes, that is very true. All right. Adam, how's it going?
Good.
How are you? Good, good. Great to see you too. Thanks so much for joining us. All right, here we go. All right, we've got a little chat going over here on the side during commercial breaks. This is Adam. He's in the studio. Here we go. It is going to be quite the mayoral race here. We've got everything happening, and so we'll explain it here. But we saw it in New York. Like New York is a microcosm, LA is a microcosm, and so really excited to break down all of these issues with you. And we should have about 10 minutes, I think, right around there.
15.
And then we'll have a hard out. So if you see me do this, that's because we're pretty much out of time.
Sure. 7.
7 seconds. All right, here we go.
4. And I just look at you.
Yeah, you just look at me, pretend like it's just us. And finally tonight, oftentimes you see a local race for mayor that becomes this microcosm for so much of what we see happening on the national stage. We saw that happen in New York. We're seeing that taking shape here in Los Angeles, too, where the embattled mayor running for re-election is facing contenders blasting the status quo and promising drastic change. We had Spencer Pratt on to kick off some of these conversations tonight. We are going to continue those chats with another challenger for mayor, former tech exec Adam Miller, who's never been in politics before. He says that is a plus. He is running as a lifelong Democrat. The corporate training company he founded called Cornerstone On Demand. He sold that for billions back in 2021. And since then, he has been involved in charities like this one. This is Better Angels that he started with his wife. It's aimed at solving homelessness here in LA. Let's bring in LA mayoral candidate Adam Miller. Adam, there are three big issues right now that dominate the political conversation here in Los Angeles. It is housing, affordability, it is public safety, and it is homelessness. It's something that we hear about every single day in conversation with neighbors. I do want to start with homelessness. You do have quite a bit of experience dealing with that firsthand, it seems. Why do you think it is that LA has such an acute problem with homelessness?
Well, we've spent $10 billion over the last decade in LA County, and we have almost 10,000 people working on the homeless issue across the county, and yet the problem has gotten drastically worse. So it's not a money problem, it's not a people problem, it's a process problem. And we could do much better. We need to be allocating much more to prevention to keep people off the street. We can be leveraging technology and process change to get people off the street into interim housing. And we have to build much more affordable housing to have a permanent place for them to live.
Now, I know with your philanthropy, a lot of the work that you've done is that outreach to people that do want to get off the streets. And that is such an important part of this conversation. And that work is happening every single day. And yet, I got to say it, as an Angelino, there are people that are aggressively opposed to getting off the street, and sometimes violently so. Like my daughter goes to school just down the street here. That bridge, we have ridden our bikes there and been chased around by people that have been offered a place to stay. How do you handle the situation in which a lot of people will not get off the street, do not want to leave, and will sometimes violently respond to those that are there to try to help them?
Yeah, unfortunately, we've had this problem persist for so long that we have people that have been chronically homeless, right? They've been unhoused for now many years. They are chronically ill. They might have severe mental illness. They might have severe addiction. And we're not getting them off the street into services to get better. We also have not been enforcing the laws that we have on the books to keep our schools safe, our daycare centers, our senior living facilities, get the encampments removed from those places, allow people to operate their businesses. It's hard to operate a business if you have 5 tents blocking your door. It's hard to feel good about the city if you have to pass multiple encampments to walk your kid to school. We can do better. We have to get rid of that. And I'm going to do that as mayor.
We've seen, Spencer Pratt's populist message around this in particular, really resonating with some people. And I want to ask, what separates you from him?
Experience, leadership. I've been leading companies and nonprofits for 35 years. He's not. I have extensive operational experience. I have extensive experience managing budgets, having fiscal responsibility. All of that is requisite of being a mayor in a city this complex. So I share the same outrage with regard to how things are going, but I actually have a plan and the ability to execute it. And that's the difference.
Meanwhile, Bass's camp has kind of dismissed you as this outsider with no political experience, as this wealthy venture capitalist who's coming in with these ideas, but doesn't know how to marshal people together to actually make things happen in government. How do you see Bass's leadership?
Well, Bass has failed as a leader, whether we're talking about any of these issues. Housing starts down 30% since 2019. The homeless problem, pervasive in the city. Public safety, people don't feel comfortable even in their own homes at this point. So we can do much better across all these issue areas, not to mention things like infrastructure, the cleanliness of our streets, the broken street lights, the time it takes to repair things, the number of industries leaving the city, the number of companies leaving the city, all of it problematic, all of it under her watch, and Nithya Raman, who's been the head of housing and homelessness for the last 4 years. Not being a career politician in this case is a huge advantage. I come in unencumbered. I have no favors to repay, no alliances that I have to uphold. I have the ability to come in and execute, get things done.
And I've seen you say in the past that you would come in and you would donate your salary because you're not doing it for the money.
Correct.
And yet I do have to ask, if you don't have experience in consensus building in that delicate, weird way that they do during city council meetings that you've probably seen here in Los Angeles, are you concerned at all about buy-in from all the people downstream that it takes to put these into play?
Look, it's correct to say that I've been successful. I've been very successful in business, and that's one of the things that makes me qualified to do this. But I started with nothing. So I understand what it means to struggle. I understand what it means to max out your credit cards and worry about where your next meal is and be a small business owner trying to make payroll. I understand the challenge of all that. I also understand the importance of alliances. I didn't just have a corporation. I've run multiple nonprofits. And in the nonprofit world, as distinct from the corporate world, the CEO might be in charge, but they can't decide what they want to do and just have that implemented. That is the way it works in the corporate world. It's not the way it works in the nonprofit world. And I've had success across multiple issue areas, building coalitions, aligning teams, leveraging partners to get things done. And that means understanding how to build consensus, understanding how to negotiate, understanding how to align teams to a vision, and understanding how to get things done.
One of the other things that is of utmost concern here in California is, in particular Los Angeles, is public safety. A lot of people do not feel safe on public transit or just walking some of the streets of Los Angeles. And so much of that has to do with LAPD, the police force, and the relationship with leaders like Karen Bass. How do you see your relationship with the rank and file officers that are on the streets every day?
So, as you probably know, I was chairman of Team Rubicon for about a decade, working with veterans to do humanitarian aid around the world. These are people with military backgrounds. Many of them end up in police departments or fire departments or other emergency services. And those are the people I've been working with to build not only the top veteran service organization in the country, but one of the top disaster response organizations in the world. So I know something about disaster response, disaster readiness, disaster recovery, all of which we failed at in LA. And I know how to work with those people to create great opportunities for them and for all the residents in LA.
With that experience, the Team Rubicon experience, how did you see the response to the fires here in Los Angeles?
I mean, like I said, it's not just that we failed at the fires. We failed being prepared for a disaster. We failed in the response, and we are still failing in the recovery. So I don't give us one F, I give us 3 Fs for that whole experience and what happened. It's a tragedy. We should be doing much more for the people in the Palisades and Altadena. We should be much more effective in how we're rebuilding and the urgency required to make sure that happens. We also, and I learned this at Team Rubicon, after an incident, after a disaster, one of the most important things you can do is the postmortem, the after-action report. What'd you do right? What'd you do wrong? And what can you do better? And of course, the city watered down that report. We're not even honest about what transpired. And when that happens, you can't get better. We should be taking that opportunity, despite all the problems we had, to at least make sure we're prepared for next time And I would say we're not much better off today than we were 16 months ago.
And we're running against the clock here, but I do want to ask, if you are elected as mayor, what kind of relationship do you see yourself having with the President of the United States?
You have to have a relationship with the President of the United States. It's one of the reasons we don't have more recovery funding. It's one of the reasons we don't have everything we need from an infrastructure perspective. There's much more that we can be doing with the federal government, with the state government, and even with the county to be effective as a city, and that's exactly what I'm going to do as mayor.
Adam Miller, really appreciate the conversation, and hopefully it continues. Thank you so much for stopping by tonight.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gotti Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned to NBC News now.
All right, Claire.
Thank you so very much. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, hopefully the conversation continues. Fascinating stuff. Absolutely. I remember Team Rubicon very fondly. I went to Tacloban and the Philippines with you guys in 2013, I guess.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it was quite some time ago.